Okay, welcome to the Monday Rehash. Good to see you today. And I want to share a couple thoughts from our message yesterday in regards to being bitter. And in Revelation 8, we were studying about the trumpets and the judgments. And there's one trumpet, the third one, it says that there's going to be a meteor that falls into the waters on the earth, and it's going to make the water bitter and we can't drink it. Now, part of the reason we're doing this message series is hope for the future, giving people hope for the future, not to give fear. And I know many people in the world today who are fearful about what the future holds and such things as these judgments are talking about. But I was struck by something specifically in the New King James Version. It says that when this comet hits the water, it makes it like wormwood. And that word translated means bitter or poisonous. Now, there are many similarities between when Israel came out of Egypt from bondage into the promised land that we're going to see. It's almost a prophetic picture of what happens to God's people in the book of Revelation coming out of this world into the promised land. And we're going to continue to see some of those, like the plagues are the same as the judgments that we're seeing being poured out. But there was something I wanted to bring to our attention. You remember when Israel came out of Egypt, they came across, they ran out of water. The only water they found, it was bitter, and it was described as being poisonous, like wormwood. God healed the waters. But later on, after they've passed by all these pagan nations, God stops them, reminds them of something, of what God has done in their life. And there's something he says in this speech to them. He says, and don't let a root of bitterness or wormwood grow up inside you. Now, as much as we're concerned about what's going to happen in the future and about the water being poisoned or the food supply being damaged or, the sun being darkened, all those things, are we as concerned about something like a spiritual meteor or comet or star that may have entered into our lives and made us toxic or bitter or poisonous? There are fiery darts that the devil throws at us all day long, all the time. And sometimes we have the shield of faith up, we can quench them. Sometimes we get caught with the guard down. And if we're not careful, we can find ourselves becoming bitter, becoming toxic or poisonous because something from the outside came into our life stream. Inside us, Jesus says, I'm going to give you rivers of living water. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we allow something to come in and it poisons those waters. I want to remind you today, and if you're going to spend some time in silence before God, as we talked about yesterday, it's good to reflect and ask God, is there anything that I've allowed in that's making me toxic, that's making me bitter, and that would cause the streams of living water to have become corrupt inside me? So I pray that for you today, that God would reveal that to you, that you'd find life and abundant life in Him. And so until next week, I pray that you're overflowing with rivers of living water. I look forward to seeing you then. God bless.